Hey guys, Tony here, and I'm back to post a response to my 5 question thread. Um, Bear with me here for just a moment. Alright, so yeah, it's been a good thread so far. I've gotten some really cool responses. I really appreciate it. So yeah, I'll just get right down to answering them. Um, I got a couple things going on the screen here, so just bear with me. Alright, so the first question is, give an example of brilliant lyrical writing, and who's your favorite lyricist? Now, as I said before in my other video, when I first got into music, lyrics were important to me. I mean, they still are important to me, but I think over time I've generally learned to appreciate a song overall more so, and I think the actual music has become more important now to me than the lyrics. Although I definitely do appreciate great lyrics, and I'd be lying if I said that my favorite artists are my favorite artists because not only can they write just great songs, but great lyrics as well. So, and of course, they would be, my favorite lyricist would have to be Neil Young, of course, um, and then Bob Dylan, and I'd be lying if I said if I didn't say Jim Morrison because um, basically, the Doors and his music, his words were the first thing to really fascinate me, the first band to really grab me and hold my attention, and I basically read everything I could about the Doors and Jim Morrison, and it just took off from there. I mean, through that you discover other bands, and it just kept going. Um, so yeah, I mean, okay, so overall, my favorite lyricist would have to be Neil Young. And for the example, I could use a million different examples, but for this, I'm going to use the song LA. Um, if you'll give me 1 second here, I should turn the volume down a little bit. Okay. So the song LA, which is actually on his album Time Fades Away, which is a brilliant album. And again, not on CD, never re-released, only available on vinyl, and I'm sure it was available on cassette at some point, but I think even that is hard to come by. But yeah, brilliant song he wrote early on in his career and kind of forgot about until later on. I think somebody reminded him of it. But yeah, let me just run through these real quick. It's a song about Los Angeles, basically, and of course, along with many other things, LA, California is known for their earthquakes, and I'm sure there's always been a thing about there's going to be a huge earthquake, and California is just going to fall into the sea, the coast is just going to. So that's kind of what the song's about. I think it's really brilliant because it's like the first verse, it starts off like typical Hollywood stuff. There are people going around their day, they're ignoring all the warnings. So let me read these lyrics to you. I'll try and go through it real quick. So the first verse is, in a matter of time, there'll be a friend of mine who's going to come to the coast. You're going to see him up close for a minute or two while the ground cracks under you. By the look in your eyes, you think that it was a surprise, but you seem to forget something somebody said about the bubbles in the sea and an ocean full of trees, and you now. In the chorus is LA, uptight, city in the smog, don't you wish that you could be here too? And he repeats that. Um, and then he goes on, the next verse. Well, it's hard to believe, so you get up to leave and you laugh at the door that you've heard it all before. Oh, it's so good to know that it's all just a show for you. And this is the verse I love, which is like the best one. But when the suppers are planned and the freeways are crammed and the mountains erupt and the valley is sucked into cracks in the earth, will I finally be heard by you? L.A., uptight, city in the smog. Just a brilliant example of writing, and just another song for Neil, really. I mean, he wrote it and forgot about it, and it didn't come up till he recorded it on Time Fades Away, and I doubt if he's probably performed it since then. But yeah, a great one. And another one I want to talk about is Dylan. And I know other people have used this example already in this thread, but I gotta say, the song Idiot Wind by Dylan is probably one of my favorites as far as lyrics go. Just brilliant lyrics. One verse in particular that always just struck me. Um, just great imagery again. Um, where is it? Alright. So I ran into the fortune teller who said, "Beware of lightning that might strike. I haven't known peace and quiet for so long I can't remember what it's like." And then this verse, "There's a lone soldier on the cross, smoke pouring out of a boxcar door. You didn't know it, you didn't think it could be done. In the final end, he won the war after losing every battle." I just always like that verse, and I just think it's really, really brilliant. But there's so many examples I could name, so there's my response to that. Next question is, in your opinion, what is the single most important event you've lived through or witnessed in the history of rock and roll or music? I do have to say it's the Nirvana and the death of Kurt Cobain. I mean, I truly cannot. Nirvana, to me, I mean, their importance, in Cobain in general, to me, their importance can't be overstated. In a way, they were much like the Beatles were in the 60s. I mean, I know a lot of people will probably be pissed off at that statement comparing Nirvana to the Beatles, but if you really look at it, I mean, there's so many similarities. When the Beatles were around, rock and roll was basically dead, and they blew it all open again. I mean, of course, there were always rumblings underground and a lot of bands, but not on the charts. And the Beatles came along and blew it all open, and after that, they just opened the door for all these bands. So the same thing kind of happened with Nirvana. Cobain was smart enough to take Beatles type of song structure, melody, catchy as hell. I mean, something about that, all those songs, and I think about it now in some of these pop stations that are around nowadays, and what they play now. And I remember back in the day, they'd play Teen Spirit like 20 times a day, and it was like always on the radio. And it's funny that they were on that hot 90 something, that they were on that, they played that so much. So, and then look at it, I mean, after Nirvana, all these bands, just all these indie bands, the underground kind of blew up. And then, his death, of course, was just a huge thing. I mean, at least to my generation, it was huge. But yeah, it's got to be the single most important thing. I mean, he changed music, and in my opinion, the guy was absolutely brilliant. If you read about his life, if you read his journals, if you read his lyrics, I mean, listen to In Utero. I mean, if you read the lyrics, it's like his suicide letter. It was like, you listen to that and you kind of know what was going to come next, but there was obviously no way of knowing. So, but yeah, that was a pretty fucked up thing. And yeah, so that was pretty important. I mean, I could say name a number of shows I went to that I would say were probably pretty important, but nothing that compares to that. So that'll be my answer for number 2. So the best album to party to, in my opinion, I got a few here, and one that I don't have on vinyl. I have it on CD somewhere, but I didn't look for it. So first off, of course, Steely Dan. To me, great music to party to. They're kind of like the band for just about any occasion, any at least happy occasion. Just something about them always fits well. One that was a great one to party to, but depending on what you were doing, because to be honest, there were times in this album just scared the hell out of me at certain points. So, yeah, if you catch my drift, if you're familiar with this album, there's a lot going on here, but Paul's Boutique. Um, so yeah, I mean, great album to party to, but there were times when I was just like, I can't take it, turn it off, one of those. So yeah, great album, and one you can never go wrong with. And my favorite by this band, Fair Warning, by Van Halen. Great album. Um, Remarkably, probably their album that sold the worst, but in my opinion, their best one. I mean, Mean Streets, Is This Love, Push Comes to Shove, Sinner Swing, Unchained, Dirty Movies, Hear About It Later, Sunday Afternoon in the Park, One Foot Out the Door. Every song is a winner here. And not a lot of filler on this album either, which some of their albums kind of have. So there you go. I pulled out 3. So excuse me. The funeral question. What songs would I like played at my funeral? I picked one, and it's one that for some reason I always thought about, and it's a very strange choice. You'd probably think, but I don't know. Perhaps if you're as acquainted with this artist and with this song as much as I am, maybe you'd understand. I don't know, but it's from Neil Young Zuma, Cortez the Killer. It's basically a song about Cortez, the conquistador, who came over to basically ruin the Mayan people. Yeah, but the long intro on that is just the guitar work on it is so brilliant, and it's like so sad in a way too. I mean, and I just think of that long opening part, and then even the lyrics. Dan made a point about not using music at a funeral because from then on, a person hears that song, they're always going to think of your funeral. Well, in this case, anybody that knows me, is close to me, and would go to my funeral knows what a Neil Young fanatic I am. So my reasoning would be they're going to think of me anyway when they hear the song. So, I don't know. But that's the song I would play. I don't know why. It's just what I would choose. Cortez the Killer. Great song. Probably one of my favorite Neil songs. Final question. If I woke up tomorrow and my entire collection was gone, what would I do? How would I start over? And what would I do differently? If I woke up tomorrow and it was just gone, I would definitely start over. I think the one thing I would do differently is just be much more mindful of the copies that I buy, because when I started, for some reason, I just got off on buying records for like $1, and a lot of them were of lousy quality. And now that I have like a better turntable, I really notice any little noise a bit more. So, not that I have a ton of bad copies, but I have a handful that I have to find replacement copies for. So yeah, I would just be much more mindful of the quality of the copy that I buy. The first thing I would probably buy would be start with my Neil Young collection, which is basically how I started the first time. I mean, it was important to me to accumulate all those Neil albums, and I would go from there to Dylan and Springsteen and all the classic rock stuff and all the stuff that I grew up with, Nirvana, all those bands. So, but yeah, that would probably be it. I mean, it'd be pretty brutal at this point. I mean, I've made quite an investment, so yeah, it's a scary thought. So there you go. I hope this was a pretty decent reply to it's my own thread, but and I could have sworn I probably already asked the lyric question. I'm not sure. It's so hard to remember. So anyway, thanks for all the responses. It's been cool. So thanks for watching. Take care.